Hello, my name is Jacob. This is the Prepper's Bunker Outdoors. I believe I just shot at a mountain lion, so I need to give it some time to think that it's safe and bleed out before I go and look for it and try and track it. Speaking of hunting and stuff like that, I did 4.5 years in the military as an airborne infantryman, one combat deployment to Afghanistan, and my job was primarily recon, so I spent a lot of time up on mountains watching people and stuff. And in concept at least, camouflage was very important to my job. And seeing a lot of the advice that's given on camouflage on various forums or on Facebook is downright, it's frustrating. Specifically when it comes to solid colors, more specifically to the color black. You'll hear oftentimes, the question asked, what do you guys think the best camouflage is, or the best camouflage at night? And you'll get 100,000 comments saying black. So, although camouflage was an important part of what I did, I didn't think that, I don't have as much training as I would like to be able to give advice on that. So, I went to the experts, and I have video clips from 3 different snipers. 2 were Army, 1 was Marine Corps, and I actually have a sniper presentation as 2 of the Army snipers were instructors. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to do a 3 video series on Tactical Tuesday about camouflage. The first will feature Justin Fidito. He was an instructor in sniper school, Army. Great guy, survivalist like myself. He was on History Channel's Alone Season 2, and he's currently a survival and shooting instructor at Rock Castle Shooting Center. So, without further ado, I'm going to throw that clip up there and go see if I can't find what I'm fairly certain was a mountain lion.
Right, so we're talking about camouflage, and specifically how black, the color black, doesn't lend itself very well to camouflaging yourself in the woods, the desert, really anywhere, opposed to blending in with a civilian populace, but that's a whole nother story. So we have kind of different camouflage patterns. There's a multitude of different camouflage patterns throughout the world, and all of them work to varying degrees. And what you can kind of probably see here, we'll hold it up to the rocks and the leaves and different things, but really there's this kind of misconception of, I think, what camouflage is. A lot of people think that it's just a blending of different colors that you would find in nature together in order to, in essence, disappear. And that's not really what camouflage is trying to do. What it's trying to do, while there's some aspects of that are true, what it's really trying to do is break up your outline so that you don't appear like what you are, right? So if we take a look at something like a desert camouflage, you'll see a lot of obviously desert-ish colors. You have basically 3 different colors in this one. You have more of a brown, a tan, and then almost has a little bit of green in it. And realistically, again, you're just kind of trying to trick the human eye into saying, okay, as I'm glossing over it, it's nothing. I don't pick up anything. The same with the more recent multicam. Now we have a lot of different colors in here. The darkest of which is kind of a really dark brown. One of the big differences between this and the old BDU pattern is, while BDUs still work really well, this black in here will actually kind of be counterproductive, because what it winds up doing is creating an outline in and of itself, right? All these little pieces create outlines in and of themselves, which can be kind of counterproductive to really breaking up your outline. Even this shirt that I'm wearing with the green and black, plaid type thing, could I make it work in a pinch? Absolutely. It's going to be a lot better than wearing a bright orange shirt. However, it will actually kind of create these spaces that the eye will pick up. Really, for me, one of the things that I prefer when I'm talking to students or friends or whatever about camouflage is stuff that's light and you can throw over what you already have on. So if you have just normal clothes on, so you have khaki pants or gray pants or something like that, not necessarily blue jeans, but and then some gray or tan, brown, green, something like that, on your top, having something like this right here. These are all over the place. I think I got this one at Walmart, but it's basically got these little leaf cutouts type things. But this is designed pretty much to just be able to throw over what you already got on. It's really light, doesn't take up a whole lot of room. You're not walking around with this huge ghillie suit or anything like that. And it really does a good job of breaking up that outline. So as your eye, or as whoever's looking for you's eye is covering that area that you're in, it glosses over your presence, right? This is one of the coolest things that I found many years ago, and I've used these a whole lot. But basically, it's just a really thin veil. It's got a bunch of holes in it, and the nice thing about this is it doesn't hardly weigh anything. I can sit here in regular clothes, and hopefully you'll be able to, even with this rock in the background, if I needed to hide from something, simply throw this over top of me, and while I'm not going to become invisible, I can still see everything very clearly, but it's breaking up the outline of me being a human. One of the other big things about camouflaging is using natural shadows, things like that, especially if you're going to be in a stationary position. Again, a common misconception about something like black is that, well, since it's black and shadows or nighttime is black, well, then it probably will blend in. Well, that's not really how it works. So something that blends in really well during the day, so let's say I have this with these leaves here, and during the day it's going to be perfectly fine. Well, when I lose that light, and it becomes night, or I step into the shadows, it's still going to work equally well. It's not going to all of a sudden become glowing yellow or something, right? So when we use black, or try to use black for camouflage, even at night, you can create too dark of a spot where you're still not breaking up that outline at all. And instead, you're creating an outline. So if I had this black backpack on, and as I'm walking, even if the rest of me is some sort of camouflage that breaks up that outline, this is going to create a hard contrast of this round object that's moving, and the eye will pick up on that really easily. One of the other huge things about camouflage, and what most people don't understand, is that a lot of it, once you get the base of breaking up the outline and your color schemes are okay, one of the big things is movement, and how the human eye picks up movement very rapidly. Well, all of these things kind of come together, and if I have something in particular, something that's just solid black or has, you know, large pieces of black in it. I have that, and then I'm creating movement on top of that. Well, all those things kind of compound together, and you can very easily, even though you're trying to be tactical on camouflage and all this, you can very, very easily stick out like a sore thumb without really meaning to. For my purposes, you know, it really depends on what I'm doing as far as, you know, what kind of, if I'm going to wear camouflage, what I'm going to do. Most of the time I'm wearing, you know, regular civilian clothes. So, you know, there's not much call for me personally to be wearing a whole lot of camouflage. And this also allows me to go a lot of different places, but without sticking out like a sore thumb or people being like, why is this dude dressed all in camouflage? You know, we're here in Kentucky. It's a perfectly normal thing, you know, to walk into the grocery store or whatever wearing camouflage. But, you know, a lot of places you would get looked at weird. And you're drawing undue attention to yourself for no reason. But when you're actually out in the woods trying to blend into your environment, you know, one of the best things you can do if you're going to be wearing, you know, different stuff is take that stuff out in the environment that you're using, drop it off, and then step back from it and look at it and look at 3 or 4 different, you know, versions, right? A lot of times we get too close when we're analyzing which camouflage we're going to use. So, you know, if I decided that I was actually going to wear, you know, a camouflage piece of clothing and not just throw this veil over me, and I said, okay, it's getting fall, almost winter time. There's a lot of leaves on the ground, and I take, you know, this desert camouflage, this multicam, and this BDU, and I say, okay, I'm looking at them right now. Well, right here, because I'm picking up a lot of these greens, this desert camouflage looks like it would blend in a lot better, right? Whereas if I were to walk 20, 30 feet away, I might see a change in that, right? Because the way my eye perceives those greens, the brown, say in the multicam, might actually overshadow that, and the really light tan in the DCU pattern right here might actually stick out as I come back further, right? So it's very important, you know, if you're trying to choose a different camouflage for a different environment, take that stuff out, you know, take your top 3 picks or 2 or 3 picks, take it out in the environment that you're going to be using it in, and actually look at it from a little bit of distance. You ain't got to go, you know, 300 yards or anything, but, you know, go 20, 30 feet away from it and see which one blends in. And a lot of times they'll become rapidly apparent because of the change in distance. Again, as opposed to just looking at it right here and saying, okay, well, this blends in great. One of the other things, you know, there's a lot of camouflage patterns nowadays are starting to get away from having black in them, you know, for good reason. But it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Because at the end of the day, it depends on where you're at, what you're trying to accomplish, whether or not you are going to be completely camouflaged, or you have to go back and forth from being camouflaged to looking like a regular person and back and forth. So I guess the word of caution as far as camouflage goes is make it make sense. You know, don't just say, okay, well, this is the newest, greatest thing, you know, in camouflage production. It's got to work. You know, it's you know, such and such pattern that costs $50 more for, you know, for this article of clothing. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for your environment, right? Just because it looks cool, you know, you're not necessarily out in the woods trying to make a fashion statement, right? You know, and then there are camouflages that look a lot cooler than the other ones, you know, that you would, you know, wear to the bar or whatever. But when you're actually taking that and applying it to not being seen, a lot of that stuff doesn't actually really work. So before you go waste a bunch of money, take some stuff out and see what actually works. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of different stuff with camouflage for a really long time, and one of my favorite things is this veil thing right here. In addition to that is, you know, Krylon spray paint, because, you know, I can take my gear and depending on what environment I'm in, I can spray paint it, you know, different colors and, you know, different varying degrees of one color or the other, to be able to blend in my environment. You know, and I can just at a whim change that same exact gear. I don't have to go out and buy entirely new gear. I just spray paint right over it, right? So there's a lot of money that can be spent on camouflage. Believe me, over the course of time of a lot of years, I've spent a lot of money on a lot of different camouflages. You know, but at the end of the day, what we're looking for is stuff that works. You know, it does us no good really to, you know, go out and spend $300 on a camouflage jacket that actually, if we're trying to blend into the woods or, you know, whatever, the mountains, that doesn't work. So that would be my word of caution. Make sure it makes sense, and, you know, actually test the stuff out as opposed to just looking online and thinking, well, that's got to be cool because it costs more. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and if you have any questions about camouflage, come see us at Rock Castle Training, and hope to see you soon.
He ain't dead smart. Played by the United States Marine Pipe and the Drum Corps.